He missed his flight to help a frail woman. Then she revealed a secret. The airport was a chaotic whirl of rushing feet, rolling luggage, and distant announcements. James's heart pounded in rhythm with the footsteps echoing behind him as he sprinted toward Gate 12. His carry-on bounced hard against his hip, slowing him down. Every second counted. The final boarding call for Flight 482 to New York had already sounded twice. His mind raced. If he missed this flight, it wasn't just about travel plans. It was about missing his son's little league game, his chance to prove to his ex-wife and to himself that he could be there, finally, for something important. Ahead, the metal barrier was sliding closed. Passengers were filing in, hushed voices mingling with the metallic clang. But then, through the blur of movement, James caught sight of something that stopped him dead. A frail woman was slumped in a cracked vinyl chair, her body shivering, clutching a worn handbag close to her chest. Her silver hair was a tangled halo around her pale face, and her eyes were shut tight, as if holding back pain too great to bear. James glanced at the departure board. Flight 482 was gone from the screen. "Please!" A faint voice broke through the noise. He looked again at the woman. She opened her eyes slowly. They were pale blue, watery, clouded with something that looked like fear. "Please help me," she whispered. 1,000 thoughts collided in James's head. The clock was against him. His phone buzzed with texts, his son's latest score update, his ex-wife's voice replayed harshly in his mind. "You never put anyone first but yourself." James's breath caught. For a moment, he stood frozen, torn, between running toward the gate or staying to help. The woman's lips trembled. "I think I'm having a heart attack." James felt the air drain from his lungs. Panic surged. But then, something deeper inside pushed him forward. He bent down, carefully, his voice soft. "Can you breathe?" She nodded weakly, but her chest heaved painfully. "Okay, stay with me, I'm calling for help." His fingers fumbled as he unlocked his phone. He dialed 911, speaking clearly and quickly. The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. James repeated the terminal and gate, describing the woman's condition. He stayed by her side, gripping her hand with a firm but gentle hold, willing her to hold on. Minutes stretched like hours. The distant sounds of rolling carts and murmur of travelers faded into a tense silence surrounding them. James noticed how thin her hand was, veins like silver threads under pale skin. "Don't leave me," she whispered, voice fragile. "I'm not going anywhere," James said, eyes locked. On hers, finally paramedics arrived, rushing with practiced urgency. The woman was lifted carefully onto a stretcher, and the cold, clinical world moved swiftly around her. James wanted to follow, to stay, but he hesitated as the reality sank in. His flight was gone. His son's game, the chance to make things right, it was all slipping away. One paramedic caught his gaze. "Family?" James shook his head, voice quiet. "No, just someone who couldn't walk away." The paramedic nodded, a mixture of respect and sympathy in her eyes. As the stretcher rolled down the hall, a uniformed airport staffer approached James, holding out a folded piece of paper. "She asked me to give this to you," she said softly. James unfolded the note. "Thank you for seeing me. You deserve to know who I am." His fingers trembled. Questions flooded his mind. Who was she? Why did her words feel so heavy, like a key to something larger? Around him, the airport buzzed back to life. Passengers hurrying, planes roaring overhead. But James stood still, caught in the sudden silence inside himself. What had he just walked into? A flashback. The day before, James had spent the previous day juggling work calls and packing, trying to keep everything together. His job as a marketing executive demanded long hours, leaving little time for family. His divorce had been messy, and his ex-wife was convinced James was unreliable, a man who prioritized work over his son, Noah. Noah needs his father, not your promises, she told him during their last call. James knew she was right. He wanted to prove himself. That's why this trip was so important. He promised Noah he would make it to the game, come rain or shine, but fate had other plans. Back to the present. James sank onto a hard bench, the note clutched tight in his hand. His phone buzzed again, a text from his ex-wife. "Where are you?" "The game started 20 minutes ago." He wanted to reply, to explain, but words caught in his throat. His mind kept drifting back to the woman, her frailty, the fear in her eyes, the secret in her note. Something about her felt familiar, but he couldn't place it. Hours passed, then the paramedics returned. The woman was stable now, but needed to stay in the hospital for observation. She requested James stay with her, saying, "I can't explain everything yet, but I need you to trust me." James was torn. He had commitments, responsibilities, but a strange, compelling pull kept him by her side. As night fell, James sat beside her hospital bed, watching her sleep. He didn't know her name. He didn't know why she had trusted a stranger, but something told him this chance encounter would change everything. A sudden visitor in the early hours, the woman's eyes fluttered open. She looked at James with an intensity that startled him. "There's something you need to know," she said, voice weak but steady. James leaned closer. "I'm not just any passenger," she whispered. He waited. "I'm the owner of the airline. You were trying to catch a flight on." James blinked. The woman smiled faintly. "You didn't just miss a plane. You missed a test. And you passed." James's heart pounded faster. What test?" he managed to ask. Her lips curved in a mysterious smile. "That's a story for another time, but I promise you this isn't the end of our story." Questions swirling. James stared at the ceiling, trying to process the night's events. Why had she revealed this now? What did it mean that he had passed some unknown test? His phone buzzed again, this time a message from Noah. "Dad, I miss you." James closed his eyes, feeling the weight of all he'd lost and the unknown journey ahead. Who was this woman, really? What secret did she hold, and why had fate brought them together in the busiest airport on the busiest day? James stared at the woman lying in the hospital bed, her fragile frame barely making a sound as she rested. The sterile hospital room smelled faintly of antiseptic and quiet desperation. Outside, the early morning light seeped through the blinds, casting soft shadows. He still couldn't shake the weight of her words from the night before. "I'm the owner of the airline you were trying to catch a flight on." It sounded impossible. How could someone so frail, so vulnerable, be the head of a multinational airline? And what did she mean by a test he had passed? James rubbed his tired eyes and glanced at the note again, folded neatly on the bedside table. "Thank you for seeing me. You deserve to know who I am." Why had she trusted him? The morning after, when she woke again, James was ready. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked gently. The woman's pale blue eyes met his. "Clara," she said, her voice still soft but stronger than before. "Clara," James repeated, as if saying her name aloud made this strange reality a little more real. She took a shaky breath. "I owe you an explanation, but it's not an easy one." James nodded. Sensing this was the moment to listen carefully, Clara began slowly, her voice growing steadier as she spoke. "I have spent my life behind the scenes, building this airline from the ground up. But I have enemies, people who want to see me fail." James frowned. "Enemies?" Clara nodded. "In business there's more betrayal than most people realize. I've had to be cautious, always testing the people around me. That's why I was on that flight, to observe something, to confirm suspicions." James felt a surge of confusion. "You mean you were watching people?" Testing them? Yes, Clara said softly, and you were the only one who stopped. Everyone else rushed past without a second thought. James looked down at his hands. I didn't want to miss my flight. But you chose to help anyway, Clara said, eyes searching his. That's why I asked you to stay. You passed the test. James shook his head, feeling the weight of responsibility settle deeper in his chest. What test? What did you want to find out? Clara smiled faintly. I wanted to find someone who still had compassion, someone who could see past their own life to help a stranger in need. A fragile connection. James thought about his own life, the fights with his ex-wife, the missed birthdays, the times he put work before family. Helping Clara had felt instinctive, but now he wondered if it was the beginning of something bigger. Why? Tell me all this, he asked. Because, Clara said, I think you're going to help me. There are things happening behind the scenes that threaten more than just my company. James's stomach tightened. What kind of things? Danger, Clara said. People who would do anything to take what I've built, and I can't fight them alone anymore. Her words hung heavy in the air, an unexpected offer. As Clara spoke, James felt a strange mix of fear and resolve. Why me? He asked quietly. I'm just a guy who missed a flight. Clara reached out, her frail hand brushing his. Because you chose to see me, that means more than you realize. You have something many don't, a heart that still cares. James swallowed hard. He felt the eyes of the world pressing on him, his son, his ex-wife, his own doubts. What do you want me to do? He asked. Clara's gaze sharpened. I need your help to uncover the truth, to protect what matters. But first, you need to know more about me. A hidden past. Clara hesitated, then reached into her bedside drawer and pulled out a small, worn photograph. James took it, studying the black and white image. It showed a younger Clara standing beside a man and a little girl. The man's face was strong and kind, and the girl's smile was bright and innocent. That's my family, Clara said quietly. Years ago, before everything changed, James looked up. What happened? Clara's eyes filled with tears. Betrayal, loss. I was forced to leave everything behind and rebuild from nothing. She wiped her eyes and continued, voice steady. That's why I test people, to find those who are genuine, to find allies I can trust. James's doubts and resolve. James's mind swirled. Was this really happening, or was he caught in some elaborate ruse? But then he remembered the way Clara had looked at him, not as a stranger, but as someone important. His phone buzzed. A message from Noah. Dad, why didn't you come? His heart ached. He had disappointed his son once again. Yet now, standing at a crossroads, James realized this moment might be the one that could change everything. He nodded. Okay, Clara, I'll help you. A mysterious visitor. Before James could ask what came next, the hospital door opened suddenly. A sharply dressed man stepped inside, eyes flickering between James and Clara. Clara, he said, voice low but firm. I hear you've made a new friend. James tensed, sensing something dangerous in the man's presence. Clara's face tightened. This is Nathan, she said, my security advisor. Nathan's gaze locked on James. I hope you understand what you're getting into. James met Nathan's stare without flinching. I want to know everything. Nathan's lips curled into a slight smile. Good. Because things are about to get complicated. The stakes grow higher. As Nathan spoke, James learned about threats against Clara's company, corporate sabotage, blackmail, even hints of physical danger. This isn't just business, Nathan said grimly. It's personal. James felt a surge of protectiveness rising inside him. For the first time in a long time, he felt a purpose beyond his own troubles. A night of questions. That night, James sat beside Clara's hospital bed again. Why did you trust me? He asked softly. Clara smiled weakly. Because you reminded me of what's good in the world. And because I need someone like you." James looked out the window at the city lights, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. He knew this was no longer about missing a flight or a game. It was about survival, trust, and a secret that could change everything. Shadows close. James stared at the ominous message blinking on his phone. "We're watching you." His breath hitched. His mind raced. Who was watching? Why? And how did they know he was involved? He looked toward Clara's hospital bed. She was still sleeping, pale and weak, but peaceful for now. This was no longer just about helping a stranger. It had become a dangerous game. The weight of threats. James's phone buzzed again. This time, a voice message. He hesitated, but pressed play. A low, distorted voice whispered, "Step away, or you'll regret it." The message ended abruptly. James felt the cold fingers of fear wrap around his heart. This was real. Someone was warning him off. He glanced at Clara's frail form. Protecting her meant risking everything, his job, his freedom, even his life. But backing down was not in his nature. A sudden visitor. Before James could decide what to do next, the hospital door clicked open again. This time, a young woman entered, her eyes sharp and alert. She wore a badge around her neck and a serious expression. "I'm Detective Mia Carter," she said, showing her ID. "I'm here because Clara requested a police presence." James's pulse quickened. The situation was escalating fast. Clara, barely awake, managed a weak smile. "Thank you for coming, Detective. The investigation begins." Detective Carter wasted no time. "We received reports of threats against Ms. Clara and her company," she said. "It's clear someone is trying to intimidate her." James listened carefully as the detective explained that Clara's airline had been hit with a series of sabotage attempts, computer hacks, suspicious accidents, even blackmail letters. "They're trying to break her," Mia said. "And they're willing to get violent." James's jaw clenched. "Do you know who?" Mia shook her head. "Not yet, but we're tracking everyone connected to her recent business deals." Trust in the dark, James felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Having the police involved was good, but it also meant the danger was very real and close. He glanced at Clara. "How did it come to this?" Clara's eyes darkened with pain. "Years ago, I made enemies, powerful enemies. People I trusted betrayed me." She took a breath. "I was forced out of the company I built. They tried to erase me." James squeezed her hand. "But you came back." "Yes," Clara whispered, "but the fight isn't over." Uncovering the past as the detective spoke with Clara, James was left alone with his thoughts. He thought back to the photo Clara had shown him. The man and little girl. Who were they? And what had happened to them? His curiosity pushed him to ask, "Clara, who were they to you?" Clara's eyes welled up again. "My husband and daughter, they were everything." James's heart ached. What happened to them? Clara's voice cracked. "A betrayal that shattered my world." A glimpse of truth, Detective Carter returned, carrying a folder of documents. "We've found some leads," she said. "There's a name that keeps coming up, Victor Hale." James frowned. "Who's that?" Mia looked grave. "A ruthless businessman with a history of dirty tactics. He's been trying to take over Clara's airline for years." James felt a chill. "And you think he's behind the threats?" Mia nodded. "It fits his pattern." A dangerous alliance later. Clara confided in James. "Victor Hale was once my closest partner," she revealed, "but greed turned him against me." James could feel the bitterness in her words. "He betrayed you?" "Yes," Clara said softly. "He wanted control. When I refused, he destroyed my family." James felt a surge of anger. "We have to stop him," Clara nodded. "But we can't do it alone." A secret meeting that evening, James received a Call from Nathan, Clara's security advisor. There's someone you need to meet, Nathan said cryptically. A man who knows more than we do. James felt a mix of hope and suspicion. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. The informant. The man who greeted James was older, with tired eyes but a sharp mind. "Call me Robert," he said. "I used to work for Hale." James's heart pounded. "Why are you here?" Robert leaned in. "Because I'm done with his lies, and I want to help Clara." He handed James a USB drive. "This has proof of Hale's illegal activities." James took it, feeling the weight of the secret in his hands. A risky plan back at the hospital. James and Clara studied the files. "There's evidence of fraud, sabotage, even threats," Clara said. "If this gets out, Hale could be ruined." James nodded. "But he'll come after us hard." Clara's eyes were determined. "We have to be ready." A family-torn James's phone buzzed again. A message from his son, Noah. "Dad, why haven't you come home?" His heart twisted. His family was falling apart while he was caught in this dangerous web. He missed them deeply, but he knew his path was set. A threat. Close to home, that night, as James returned to his apartment, he noticed a shadow lurking nearby. He quickened his pace, heart racing. Suddenly a voice whispered from the darkness, "Stay out of this." James froze. The threat was no longer distant. It was at his doorstep. The price of loyalty. James's hands trembled as he stared at the photo of his son, Noah. The image was innocent, Noah smiling brightly in the park, but the note beneath it stabbed at James's heart like a dagger. "We have him. Don't make us come for you." His breath caught. The stakes had just exploded beyond anything he imagined. Desperation and determination. The weight of the threat settled heavily on James's shoulders. His world was crashing down, yet there was no room for panic. He swallowed hard, wiping away, the sweat gathering at his brow. He had to protect Noah, he had to protect Clara, and he had to stop Victor Hale. But how? The enemy had just taken the fight to his home. Calling for backup, James quickly dialed Nathan, Clara's trusted security advisor. "Nathan," James whispered urgently. "My son's been threatened. They have him. We need help. Now." Nathan's voice was calm but firm. "I'm mobilizing a team. Stay where you are. I'll send someone to watch over Noah and your family." James exhaled a small sigh of relief. At least Noah wasn't alone. Clara's resolve. James went to Clara's hospital room. She looked fragile but fierce. He placed the photo and note on the bedside table. Clara's eyes darkened with fury. "They're trying to break us." James nodded. "They're coming for everything." She reached out, gripping his hand tightly. "We fight back, but we need a plan," a risky decision. James and Clara convened with Nathan and Robert late that night in a dimly lit safe house. Robert connected his laptop, pulling up files and surveillance footage. "Victor Hale's network runs deep," Robert warned. "We have to be smart." James looked at Clara. "How far are you willing to go?" Clara's voice was steady. "As far as it takes." The trapped Nathan outlined a dangerous plan. Bait Victor Hale by leaking false company information, luring him to expose himself. "Victor won't resist," Nathan said, "but the risk is high." James's heart pounded. "And Noah?" "We keep him hidden," Nathan promised. Shadows in the night. That night, James barely slept. His mind spun with fear for his son, anger at Victor Hale, and the crushing burden of uncertainty. Suddenly, a noise outside. Footsteps, a shadow slipping away. James grabbed his phone to call the police, but hesitated. Who could he trust? Could this be Victor's men? A message from the past. The next day, James received a cryptic text. "You're not the only one with secrets, James. Watch your back." His fingers trembled. Someone knew about his past. Memories flashed. Old betrayals, a broken marriage, lost trust. Had Victor Hale dug into James's life, confronting the past? James met with his ex-wife Laura, hoping for answers. She was wary, but agreed to talk. "I heard from a friend," Laura said quietly. "Victor's been digging into your history, trying to find a weakness." James clenched his fists. "He won't find one." Laura hesitated. "James, be careful. This isn't just about Clara." A secret revealed. Later, Clara revealed something that shocked James. "Victor's not the only enemy," she said. There's someone else. Someone closer." James's eyes widened. "Who?" Clara's voice dropped. "My own brother, Marcus. He's been working with Victor." James stared in disbelief. Betrayal so deep it cut like a knife. The Brotherhood betrayed Marcus's. Face flashed in James's mind. Once a trusted family friend, now a traitor. Why? Greed, power, revenge? James knew he had to confront Marcus, but carefully. The confrontation, James arranged a meeting with Marcus in a secluded park. Marcus arrived smug and confident. "So, James," Marcus sneered, "still playing the hero?" James's voice was cold. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus shrugged. "Business. You and Clara stood in my way. I'm just cleaning up." James's fists clenched. "At what cost?" Marcus smiled darkly. "At whatever it takes." A dangerous game. As the meeting ended, James realized how deep the betrayal ran. The enemy was not just outside, it was within. He had to protect Clara, Noah, and himself from all sides. A final warning. That night, James received another note slipped under his door. "Back off, or Noah pays the price." His resolve hardened. He would fight no matter the cost. Shadows close in the threat. Tightened, James sat alone in the dim glow of the safe house. His fingers trembled as he stared at the phone, the chilling voicemail still echoing in his mind. "We're closer than you think. Watch your next move carefully." His pulse quickened. They were watching him, waiting for a mistake. Noah's safety, Clara's life, everything depended on James's next decisions. A shattered, calm Clara was restless in her hospital bed. Her face pale, her eyes haunted by the shadow of betrayal. James sat beside her, gently brushing her hair back. "We'll get through this," he promised softly, though his own heart was breaking. But deep inside, James felt the storm was only just beginning. Unseen, Eyes Nathan's team had been monitoring their perimeter, but the unknown caller's message meant someone had bypassed their defenses. James paced, unable to sit still. His mind raced through possible spies. Marcus, Victor's men, or someone else? Unexpected visitor late that night. A knock on the door startled James. He glanced through the peephole. It was Emily, the frail woman from the airport. Emily's confession. James opened the door cautiously. Emily stepped. Inside, her eyes urgent. "I know more than I told you," she said. James's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Emily hesitated, then whispered, "Victor Hale's plans run deeper than you realize. And Marcus, he's not working alone." James felt the weight of her words. A new ally. Emily explained how she had once been part of Victor's inner circle. Forced to work for him, under threat to her own family. She had escaped but was still being hunted. "I want to help you," Emily said, her voice trembling but determined. James weighed the risk. Could he trust her? The plan tightens. With Emily's insider knowledge, James, Clara, Nathan and Robert crafted a more aggressive plan. They would turn the tables, using Victor's own methods against him, leaking false intel, planting traps, and waiting for Victor and Marcus to make their move. The breaking point. But as days passed, the pressure mounted. Clara's health worsened, the stress taking a toll. James struggled to keep everything together. The kidnap attempt one evening, as James returned to the safe house after a meeting, he noticed something was wrong. The door was ajar. Inside, signs of struggle. Furniture overturned. Papers scattered. No sign of Clara or Noah. Panic and resolve. James's heart stopped. They had taken them. Frantically, he called Nathan. "We've been compromised." "They took Clara and Noah." Nathan's voice was tight. "I'm sending backup." "Stay where you are." Racing against time, James knew he couldn't wait. He grabbed his phone and keys, heading into the night. The hunt for Clara and Noah had become a desperate race. A lead Emily's phone buzzed. A message. "Meet at the old dock."
Now!
James and Nathan drove through dark streets, adrenaline pumping. The dockside meeting at the deserted dock. A shadowy figure awaited. It was Marcus. He smirked. "Looking for them?" James clenched his jaw. "Where are they?" Marcus laughed coldly. "Safe. For now." The bargain Marcus offered a cruel deal. If James backed off, Clara and Noah would be released unharmed. James's blood boiled. Was this a trap? Trust shattered. Emily grabbed James's arm. "Don't trust him." But James hesitated. Could he risk it? The trap. Springs. Suddenly, headlights flooded the dock. Victor's men surrounded them. James realized the bargain was a setup. Fight or flight gunshots echoed. James, Nathan, and Emily fought desperately. Amid the chaos, James saw Clara and Noah being pushed into a van. The van's escape. The van sped away. James's world blurred. He shouted, "No, wait!" But the van vanished into the night. The final move alone. On the dock, James stood motionless as the van disappeared into the shadows, carrying Clara and Noah away. His chest tightened, pain, fear, and rage all crashing inside him. "This ends. Now," he whispered. He stared at his phone, the chilling message glowing. "You lost this game, James. But the final move is mine." Rallying the team, James's first instinct was action. He called Nathan and Emily immediately. "We have to find them before it's too late." Nathan's voice was grim but resolute. "We're tracking the van's route using GPS. It's headed north towards an abandoned warehouse district." Clara's strength, meanwhile, in the van. Clara was quietly fighting her own battle. Noah sat beside her, scared but silent. Clara's mind raced. She knew she had to stay strong, not just for Noah, but for James. She whispered softly to her son, "We're going to be okay." The warehouse. James, Nathan, and Emily arrived at the warehouse under cover of darkness. The building loomed, cold and silent. James's heart pounded. This was the final stand. The rescue inside. They heard muffled cries. Following the sounds, James burst into a dimly lit room. Clara was tied to a chair, bruised but alive. Noah was beside her, holding her hand. James rushed forward, cutting the ropes. "Mom! Dad!" Noah cried, relief flooding his voice. James hugged them both tightly, confronting the enemy. Suddenly footsteps echoed. Victor, Hale, and Marcus appeared, smug and confident. "So predictable, James," Victor sneered. "Did you really think you could win?" James stepped forward, fury blazing. "This ends tonight." The fight. A fierce struggle broke out. Nathan and Emily fought Victor's men while James faced Marcus. The betrayal between them was palpable. Former friends turned deadly enemies, turning the tide. James's determination gave him strength. With a final, desperate move, he overpowered Marcus, knocking him unconscious. Victor snarled, realizing defeat was near. Justice-served police sirens wailed in the distance. Nathan had called for backup. Victor and his men were arrested, their criminal empire crumbling. Healing and hope. Weeks later, Clara was recovering at home. James watched Noah play in the garden, smiling despite everything. The scars from the ordeal would never fully fade, but there. Emily was stronger. A secret revealed. Emily visited one last time. "I'm free now," she said softly. "Thanks to you." James nodded. "Your courage saved us all." The lesson. James looked at Clara and Noah, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. Final thought. The frail woman at the airport had changed James's life forever. Helping a stranger had led him through a journey of betrayal, danger, and ultimately, redemption. And in the end, love and loyalty had won. Taken